Welcome into another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. We are connecting with you, Italian football fans from all over the world. It's been a few weeks since we've come at you. My apologies. It's just been such a traumatic transfer mercato for Inter that I haven't been able to face the music. I mean, Jerry, I was in like a full-on depression and it was more so missing out on Bremer than Dybala because, I mean, how many shows did you and I do for weeks when it looked like Dybala to Inter? And I kept saying, like, hey, it'd be kind of cool to have Dybala on my team, but I definitely have concerns about his injury history and also the way that he would fit with Inzaghi ball. It was still kind of tough to see him go to another club. And I know Roma's very happy to have him. I saw that event that they put on, which was just unbelievable. So he's very appreciated there at Roma, and I hope he does well there. Missing out on Bremer the way that Inter did, seeing him go to Juventus was a little bit tougher for me to swallow. But we are here, Alex Donno alongside Jerry Mancini as always. Jerry, how you been, sir?
I'm very good. Been busy just with work, but I've been good. Not as much podcasting and writing this summer. TOC media finally kicking in again. Sorry about that. But other than that, keeping myself busy.
And I'm so happy to see you back covering Toronto FC up there at the stadium at the press conferences, and that's almost like an Italian club now because they have all the Italian players. I mean, Bernardeschi there. Hello, Raf Biz. And I keep seeing Berna keeps getting assists every night, Jerry.
So a good friend of mine, I'm going to give him a shout out, Dan Saparita, said a good point the other night, and I kind of agree with him. I feel that when Insigne signed here, he thought he was going to be the main guy, and he was.
How's he doing, by the way?
So I'll get to that. I'll get to that. It will tie into that. Okay. I think that when Insigne came here, he thought he was going to be the guy. Everyone was going to look to him. He's the Italian guy coming. Can't wait for Insigne to come. We got this first amazing player since Jovinko. Okay, so he comes. But he doesn't really start in front of Toronto getting that high press. Like, the introduction was great, but when it actually got to the game, Criscito started first. He got 3 games, and he was introduced, and he was the only guy on the pitch. So he had his little spotlight. And then when Bernardeschi came in, he kind of took the spotlight, and everyone's like, oh, all the Juventus fans are like, oh, look, Bernardeschi's here. So you got this divide of Napoli versus Juventus to see their favorite player. And this is how I see it. And I look at now the way Bernardeschi has been playing in the first 2 games compared to Insigne. I think he's been way better. Those ratings online, I don't agree. I think that Bernardeschi's been more energetic. I think that his vibe, his attitude, he just looks more hungry on the pitch. He's been more effective in the scoring column and the assist column. It's really early, 2 games, but
yeah,
if you were to give me my first impression, it seems as if Insigne looks a little frustrated on the pitch. Now, I could be overlooking this, but I do agree that when Bernardeschi came in, it did take some of his spotlight, and now you got 2 guys who both want to be the number 1 guy with TFC. So I think Bernardeschi has better character. I as much as I hate Juventus and everyone knows it, I actually finally had the privilege of asking a question to a professional football player.
I saw that was a cool video, or no? Was it? I think
audio. I just gave you the
audio of it. That was really cool. That was really cool.
Yeah, but asking him and the way he answered the question was very. Your first impression is your last impression. My first impression of Bernardeschi was this guy is here to stay. He's here to embrace Toronto and accept it as a second home. And with Insigne, I think that he's there, but I just got this different vibe with Bernardeschi. I don't know why, and I just hope that this doesn't become a feud. I don't think it will, but I think that deep inside, in kind of his attitude on the pitch, I think that Insigne kind of thinks that, man, I thought I came here to be the go-to guy, but that's no longer the case.
Right.
So I wonder how that would work out going along.
I think that
moving
happens
forward, but
sometimes. I think that happens sometimes with guys who are veterans who have been around forever, like Insigne. I think when they and he could end up being one of the better players in MLS, no question about it. But I think when you first arrive, just because MLS has the reputation of being shit, that's just the reputation, right? I think a lot of times these guys who had great success in Europe will arrive at an MLS club and they're going to think this is just going to be so easy. It's going to be like a training match, and it's just different. Like it's not a great league by any stretch of the imagination, but tactically it's so different from Serie A and some of the other European leagues that sometimes it just takes adjusting. And it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that a guy like Berna, who's more of a glue guy and a hard-working type of guy, would have more success right away, because Insigne may have come over thinking it's just going to be a cakewalk. But like you said, it's only been a couple of games, so he may end up being a force in the league, but it may take him a little bit. And yeah, Raph is right. Who cares? He's making bank.
I don't agree with that. I think a player to a certain degree actually does care about his status and what he is on with the team on the pitch, to the fans, especially Insigne being a very emotional person too. Like, we know he's an emotional person. We've seen it many times. I'll end it here. I think Bernardeschi is going to be the better player the more I think about it. And I think there's two reasons why. One, he's 28 years old. So I think he's a good comparison to Giovinco. And when Giovinco arrived, it was 28 years old, around there. And I think he has a lot more mileage in himself in order to kind of like produce at a more consistent level. I think the injury history, I don't think is as a bigger factor for him as it is for Insigne. We see in the latter years where it started to pick up a toll. I think Insigne is going to be great for Toronto overall, but I just think that Bernardeschi might be the better player the more I think about it now.
Nice.
I could be bullish, but at the end of the day, that's how I see it. And I'll end it there because I know that we have other things to talk about in the TFC. But it was nice to get back live games again, and it's something I probably plan on doing for the foreseeable future. I enjoy.
Great.
I love it, man. Like, cutting back writing just to write for this is way better.
I might have to, geographically very far away, but I might consider adopting TFC, because I when it comes to MLS clubs, I am a free agent. I'm completely out on the Inter Miami front. I'm still an Inter Milano fan, of course, but I'm out on my local Inter Miami. So I'm taking free agent applications. I will consider adopting TFC.
That's the only team I'll watch.
Yeah,
MLS, unless there's nothing on tonight, I'll put it on. But like, I'm gonna watch the second division tomorrow, the championship for the English league. I'm gonna try to catch some of the game tomorrow.
That's actually a better watch than MLS.
Yeah,
for real, like not even close. It's better quality. It's probably better quality. It's a better quality. The second tier England is a better quality league than the top tier United States. But I wanted to get into these Matthijs De Ligt comments. Because our guy Mass, and by the way, welcome in, Mass. We love you. He says De Ligt should convert to striker with all the attacking football he's been going on about. Now, you guys are going to think I have an agenda when I defend De Ligt, because I'm the Interista, and somebody quote unquote bashes Juventus. Of course, I'm going to come to his defense. But I think people are maybe reading too much into this, Jerry. Because first of all, these players get asked questions. That's how interviews work. Like, he didn't just wake up this morning or yesterday morning and say, how can I trash my former club? He was asked a question about styles of play. Maybe he could have been a little bit more careful with his wording, but let me read this quote and you tell me what's wrong with it. So Matthijs De Ligt, now at Bayern, former Juventus center back, says, I joined Juventus with the idea of playing a bit more attacking football because Sarri was the coach and he played amazing football in Napoli and Chelsea. I expected to have the Ajax style there, but unfortunately, he left after 1 year. And, you had Pirlo his second year, and then the third year, dinosaur ball with Allegri. So it's like, I guess maybe he could have just done a better job. Like, and also this is a Google Translate job, right? Because I'm assuming he said that either in Dutch or German, and so somebody ran this through the old Google Translator, so the tone could be different. Okay, but I think it's fair for the most part what he said, because when he chose to play with Juventus, that was under a very certain style with a manager that reminded him more of the style that his team played at Ajax. And then a couple of years later, he's playing, 1960s Catenaccio. Like I can understand where he's coming from, Jerry. And yeah, this is a guy who's capable of scoring from this action. I think if anything, people should look, and I see some Juve fans, Jerry, even saying, you know what, he's not wrong. Like, you can be upset about what he said, calling out Juventus, but everything he's saying there is true.
Well, with Sarri, it's an attacking style of game, right? And you look at Dinosaur Ball, aka Allegri, and you're very defensive minded. Once you have a goal, you have to drop back with 700 guys. So, is that the type of game that De Ligt wants to play? He is more an attack minded player where he thought that he would join more into the counterattacks. He would join more into creating chances, and that never became an opportunity for him. And maybe the fact that he wasn't able to kind of play his full potential kind of forced his arm and said, I don't want to be here anymore. I think at the end of the day, that's what he's trying to say is that.
And when you say forced his arm, it's appropriate because of all those handballs.
Yeah, maybe, but you have a player who just didn't want to be at Juventus, and for good reason. If a player cannot play within his limits and the way his style is, and has to go outside the box and just can't adapt to it. He's had 2 seasons since Sarri left, trying to adjust to the way Juventus plays. So I think that, in fairness, he gave it a chance. He tried. He gave 2 long years. And at the end of the day, he said, okay, I no longer want to be here. He was honest with the club. At least he didn't drag it on and try to beat it around the bush. At least you have a player who's up front and says, just take me out.
And they got plenty of money for him. It's not like they had to sell him for pennies on the dollar. Like that was a good deal.
I don't see. Sometimes the best thing to say is nothing, but at the end of the day, he's 23. Like maturity still has to sink in. That will come in time. I think that he's probably upsetted a portion of the Juventus fan base with a comment like that, because now it's kind of like saying, maybe not, but still, I don't know, maybe you could take it the wrong way, but I see where he's coming from at the end of the day. I think it's just a simple quote saying that I didn't want to be there anymore because of the playing style. That's what it just comes down to, right?
We're getting a little banter, Jerry, from the other side of Rome. Our guy Chris DeSantis, big Romanista, says Jerry on the scene in his wearable toilet paper. Listen, like Chris, and by the way, Chris, you probably just got in here. I said near the top of the episode, as far as Roma goes, I was blown away by that Dybala introduction and how many fans were there and how cool that scene was. So that was awesome. As far as Jerry's jersey, Jerry, I think that's an awesome jersey. Like, Chris can talk his crap if he wants to, but I think that's one of the coolest jerseys I've seen in a long time.
He lives in another world. This is historic. This is from the 90s when things were great for Lazio, man. This is a winner's jersey.
Who's the sponsor? Pull that up so people can see it.
Oh, it's Cheeto. Or Cheerio.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck you call
Cheerio.
it. Whatever. It was a gift from somebody, and I never thought that I would ever have a Lazio kit from the 90s. So I feel like this is a very vintage to me. So
kit. That must have been the third kit that year, or did they have the home kit was black for some reason?
It was the away kit from what I remember.
Oh, the away kit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, 98, 99.
Nice.
Yeah. So
that's great.
Hey, feels way different compared to what we wear today. Like Puma and like the material itself, it's a little bit more heavier. Now like the jerseys are like they're as thin as like the shoes that they wear on the
Mm-hmm.
pitch, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I mentioned near the top of the episode my transfer market frustrations. Anthony says, Alex, you're not the only one. Every single club in Italy are struggling to sign players. Well, I think Juventus they've been doing all right. Roma's, he says, especially with Milan, with the fact that we have not secured the CDK signing yet. I do want to talk a little bit, Jerry, just to keep things on a positive note. Some of the biggest Mercato wins so far, because I know Lazio's had some. I mean, for me as an Interista, we've taken some L's, no question about it. That stretch of 2 days between Dybala and Bremer was really, really tough. The big issue that Inter's been facing, aside from the normal financial challenges of ownership, which we've known about for a couple of years, they've just had a lot of trouble selling. Right? I mean, they've been they haven't even to this point been able to move Pinamonti. Like, they've just had a really, really hard time selling players. So you're not going to be able to buy somebody like Bremer if you can't get Alexis off the books, and you're not going to be able to buy someone like, or to pay for a free agent like Dybala if you can't get Alexis off the books. It's just been really, really tough. So I think the biggest win for Inter so far, few would disagree with this, is Lukaku back. I'm wearing a Lukaku jersey here tonight. I think that this is, although he's not been great so far in preseason, I'm sure he'll be fine. But this is the sort of thing that it can just add such a focal point and so much more consistency to the attack, especially renewing the partnership between Lukaku and Lautaro, which was so dynamic for the 2 seasons that they played together. And Lukaku, with his size, his speed, and his strength, those characteristics made him really, really dangerous in Serie A. I think those characteristics make him stand out a lot more in Serie A than they did in the Premier League. He feels like home at Inter. He's wanted to come back. So I think even though it's a dry loan, although here's some reports that it could be a 2-year loan, not just a 1 year, and then hopefully they can find a way to keep him permanently after that spell is over. That was the biggest transfer win. I mean, there's been other moves that I like. I think Aslani is going to end up being a really good signing in the midfield. People have been bantering the Bellanova signing and being terrible, but he does keep scoring in preseason. So he's scoring for whatever reason. Bellanova's been scoring for fun in preseason. We'll see if he provides anything this year. But I would say Lukaku has been far and away the biggest transfer W for Inter so far. What about for Lazio? They've made some good moves. What have you liked most?
I'm very shocked that we've been able to sell players. First off, yeah. I feel like Lazio's been the only team really to sell players in Serie A. I haven't been watching a lot of other teams, but the fact that we sold Dennis Vavro, we sold Marici, which was a shock. We sold today. We loaned out Johnny, who was on his last year of his contract, but still, the wages are off the books, so that's not bad. There's been a lot more deals, but I would say the best signing we've signed so far 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 players we've signed in this Mercato, and apparently there are a few more to come. So today they signed. Nice. So the official word is that Provedel and Vecino will be coming to Lazio.
That's your biggest move right there, Vecino. He can no longer knock you out of Champions League. Actually he could knock you out of Champions League from within. He could. Actually,
but these apparently Mertens is not out of the question. They're after Emerson Palmieri. That's another player that they've been negotiating for weeks, so that's another thing. I would say the player that has really impressed me the most is Marcos Antonio, and
that's a good player.
And he is the regista. He's more of an attacking midfielder, but he can play as a box-to-box midfielder. I was reading, and basically, he can really click the boxes defensively and offensively. I think it's his pace and his movement and his ability to make quick passes that has really encouraged. He's a very young player who came from Shakhtar, and what's his name? The Shakhtar manager who was in City after Sassuolo, De Zerbi has really he had high regards for him to Sarri. So It cost us around 8 million for him, 7-8 million, and we got him on a very good deal because of Shakhtar's financial problems, especially given with the war now. It kind of it forced them. So he's probably been one of our best players in preseason. Emerson is. I know that Jorge is saying that he's average for Lazio. It's a player that probably has the traits that suit Sarri and what he's looking for. A lot of people were criticizing why did Lazio sign Vecino. Vecino's not a starter. He's making around 1.5 to $2 million for 3 years. You're not signing him for you're not signing him for 5 years. It's a 3-year deal. So I don't see. He's 32 years old.
I don't think he's
31.
I don't think he's 3-year deal.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to see the end. I think he'll probably stay there for 2 years and then they'll figure out something because I don't think he's got 3 years left. He may have like a season and a half left, but he's pretty much looked finished even when he stepped on for a few minutes. I mean, he might be able to do something as a late sub, but yeah, he's looked pretty rough the last couple of years, Jerry.
Well, he's a Sarri player, and I'll see how it goes. I think it's still a good move. You want bodies on the pitch, like on especially with how. Sorry, you want multiple players. You don't want to have a depleted squad, and I think that with how the schedule is this season, I think that Lazio is very smart to kind of sign all these players and try to have the depth that they didn't have last year. I'm okay with the signing. I think Provedel is a very good signing as well.
That's a good signing.
Yeah. I don't know how Lotito was able to get the price down to 2.5 million. When Spezia was asking for 6 million, I think that Lotito has been working his magic in this mercato, and the fans will always resent him. It doesn't matter how good Lazio does in the market. I think this is their best transfer market, and who knows how long.
I agree.
And I'll add this. I know they lost to Genoa yesterday, but I don't really give a shit who you lose to in preseason.
It doesn't matter. Preseason, it doesn't matter.
I don't even care if they're a Serie B team, okay? I had to hear people say that, oh, you lost to a Serie B team, though. There's concerns. No, there isn't a concern because, remember, when you are playing these teams, I saw Roma on Saturday losing to Nice, and I messaged our friend here, Chris, and we were talking on the side, and that's not the starting 11 that's playing in the first half, though. There's 2 starting 11s that you're going to come out with first half and second half. You're mixing up your lineups. You're tweaking things. You're putting some garbage players, say, or mediocre players with good players. You're testing things to see how the team adapts, how they respond. And yeah, okay, fine. You're playing against maybe a lower level team or whatever it may be. I don't think at the end of the day, the whole point of preseason is to kind of test and trial where you are at, what your team's at, what you're looking at, who adapts to what. To me, it's more getting those relationships going, getting the players some familiarity, right? Like, remember, 8 new players in the team. It's going to take some time for Lazio to kind of adjust and adapt with each other. And I didn't know that you gain points in preseason.
Right, exactly.
What the fuck is
sorry if I distracted you, but I wanted to. This was the freaking tweet of the day. Oh, we were talking earlier about De Ligt and his comments about Juventus style of play, and freaking our guy Rui roasted Joe Cappuccino today. So Joe Cappuccino, because everyone's all the Juventus fans are pissed about talking about attacking football. He says, De Ligt, this is what we call defending. And then Rui brings up this old gem, Joey Cappuccino saying De Ligt is the best defender in the world. I mean, that was
how did that do?
Elite trolling. I retweeted it the second I saw it. Let's see how many.
Yeah, how good did
23 retweets?
Oh wow,
23 likes. That's not bad considering like
323 likes. That's very good, man.
23 retweets. That's good.
That's very good. When you consider Rui's following is not like 50K follower, it's really good.
See how many followers does Rui have? Hold on.
I think that's pretty good for his
Rui's our
following.
good friend, by the way, from
Look,
the Red Card
look at,
Report. He deserves more followers than this. 2,100
look.
followers is
That's
not
not bad,
nearly enough
man.
for Rui. Yeah, but he
That's
deserves. I mean, you've got way
yeah,
more
but
followers than
okay,
that. How
but
many do
look
you
at
have?
his tweets. Look at his tweets. People who don't tweet. That's because I have no life and I tweet like 10 tweets a day.
You do tweet all
When
the
I'm
time.
when
Yeah.
I'm in the aisle, I'm banging out tweets. Okay, and people are like just looking at me. Like I don't have a life. I'm just a big loser. Rui is actually slugging out the coffees out in Boston right now. Like he's selling those coffees for his family business. Yeah, this is putting a plug in for you, Rui, you prick. But
What's the name of the coffee company? Do you know?
I don't know actually. I
If
cannot.
anyone, I know our guy George knows them as well. George, if you know the name of his coffee company, throw. Although I don't think he owns the company, does he?
No,
So does it help him if
he. I don't know if he delivers or if he's like got a distribution. But yeah,
we got to bring
yeah.
him back on the show because he's a good guy. I've been I'm a little bit of a dictator. I'm like the Kim Jong Un of Calcio Connection. So I've put a ban on Milanisti until they're done celebrating their stupid Scudettos. Haven't had any Milanisti on since the
Oh,
Scudetto.
espresso machine distributor. I thought you.
There you go.
But
I love espresso.
So back to this tweet. When was this? De Ligt shit the bed.
So he
When was this game? Because I stand by saying that De Ligt shit, and I still believe that Bastoni
well,
is.
He sent out a tweet of like great slide tackles that didn't involve De Ligt. See, he's saying this is what defending looks like. Oh, it's clean.
Oh, that's fine. I get the adjustment. I get the most of it, but yeah, I still think De Ligt's just an average defender. I don't know. I don't rate him highly yet. I thought he was okay with Juventus, but I think Bastoni has. I think he's better. That's all I'm gonna say.
Can we book George on the next episode? Because I don't want to George. No disrespect to you, I love you. I don't want to bring you on now because we weren't going to be on for more than a few more minutes. But we'll bring you on the next episode. You can join us from the start. I love it. He was asking if he's still able to be on.
We'll be back more regularly now that Alex is no longer doing his morning shifts.
Oh, like dude, that was brutal. I felt like Jerry for like 2 weeks. I was filling in on morning radio every day, waking up at 4:30 in the morning. I was like, oh, bags under my eyes. And then by the time it got like 7 p.m., I'm like, I'm done. I'm finished. I can't do this anymore. I can't do a show tonight. That's why we haven't been on in a couple of weeks. Last thing, Jerry, we talked about transfer wins, and I know there've been some losses, obviously, for Inter, who I follow. But I'll say Lukaku was a win, or other Onana coming in at goalkeeper. I like Sonny. I like that signing. I'm kind of upset that I signed Mkhitaryan. They basically gave Roma the wages that they needed to sign Dybala. That was kind of fucked up. Let me say one thing before I bring up what the biggest transfer win in Serie A might be to this point. It looks as though Skriniar is staying at Inter, at least for now, and they're trying to sign him to a new extension. I never rule out a sale when Suning is involved, though, because I know that if Chelsea or another Premier League club, it looks like PSG is more than likely out of the running, but if a Premier League club offers 70 million euro plus, Suning is just going to take the money and run. So I'm not going to rule out anything. I know they're trying to work on an extension. So if Skriniar does end up staying, that'll be kind of the light at the end of the tunnel for the whole Bremer thing falling through. That if Inter can keep Skriniar, I can sleep at night, and with Bremer going to the event, which is, but hopefully they keep Skriniar. If they do sell Skriniar at the end of this window, having lost out on Bremer, this is going to be maybe the worst transfer window that I've followed in decades with Inter. Because if they could have actually sold Skriniar a few weeks ago for about 70 million, they had the opportunity to, at that time, sign Bremer for about half the price that they sell Skriniar for, and Bremer might even be a better center back than Skriniar. Believe me, I'm aware of that. So that would have been at least good business. It would have been tough to see Skriniar go, but if they had sold Skriniar and replaced him with Bremer at half the price, that would have been really good business. But if you sell Skriniar late in the window without a real replacement, if your best option might be Milenkovic, then it's just not a freaking good move. So hopefully they keep Skriniar, and at least I can be somewhat content with this transfer window. What would you say, Jerry, to this point, the biggest for you? I think Bremer to Juve might be the biggest transfer win, because Juve, within a span of like 48 hours, they thought they might lose Dybala to their biggest rival and see Inter sign Bremer, and then instead of losing Dybala to Inter, they lose him to Roma, which is, that's a better alternative for Juventus, and then they steal Bremer away from Inter. That was like the best 2 days of dubs that anyone had at the transfer window. The Bremer move was big.
In regards to Bremer, I thought that the whole way it planned out just didn't. No one saw that coming. So I personally thought that he was going to play at Inter. I think that Inter was the better choice for him, playing in a back three as he did for the most of his career. He's always been a back three player, and I wonder how he's going to adjust to a back four, considering that it is a big change for a player. I think the way you have to play, how you have to adapt, the space you have to cover, the style, and I'm not saying he can't do it, but I think the transition just would have been easier at Inter. But who's to say he doesn't do it at Juve? I don't want to count that out because
he's a great
player.
He'd be good in just about any back line.
Yeah, I just think that Inter was a more suitable choice for him. But hey, Juve got a quality defender that was able to replace De Ligt, and had Bremer signed with Inter from a while back, I think that Juve would be in a bad place. So let's just say they would be in a difficult situation. I think Milenkovic would have been signed already from Fiorentina. That's my suggestion, is that they would have gone to him had they didn't get Bremer, because they needed something. That's 100%. As for Skriniar, I don't know I don't even know what Inter, like, how do I say this? Okay, I don't think Inter knows what Inter is anymore. Is that a fair point? Like, I feel like the club don't know who they are. Like, everyone's trying to figure out what's going on with Inter. Like, I think that their transfer market has been very weird in some ways, and like, I don't know what their goal is. And now you got what's his name there? That chooch of an owner you have there, Zhang.
Steven
Zhang now apparently owes $250 million in debt. He's got
for a lawsuit.
The lawsuit. Like, what's the future? What's the future with their ownership? Because he just keeps on racking up the debt, and
he needs to sell.
Like, the longer you stay with this guy, the further Inter is going to go back. I think.
Unfortunately, staying with him is his choice, not ours. It's like
no, I get that. I don't see a clear path to this team going forward, though.
No,
just,
there's no muddy. There can't be a real project, because when your number one objective every transfer window is capital gains first and sporting project second, like, every now and then a club may have a window like that. But when every single window, your objective is capital gains first and then everything else is back burner, you can't sustain a project. Like, they've done a pretty darn good job up to this point. This has been a rough window. Up to this point, they've done a pretty good job with free transfers and bargains, but the bargains don't always work out because they make these agreements with players. Like, they had an agreement with Bremer for months for wages, and they were hoping, hey, Bremer is going to insist only Inter, and that's going to make it easier to bargain with Torino because he only wants to go to Inter. But The problem is if you wait too long, the players get fed up, and then you can't predict the market, right? Because Juventus suddenly came into a ton of money with selling De Ligt that Inter may not have predicted would happen when the window started. But Juventus made a ton of money selling De Ligt, and then they were able to come in. They were able to offer Bremer more money, and they were able to offer Torino a lot more money, and you can't predict that. And then it was the same thing with Dybala on a free. Inter had a pact with Dybala for months. Here's the project. He likes it. Here's the wages we can offer you. He liked it. But then they were unable to move strikers, right? Because Alexis hit hard with his buyout, and they weren't able to come to an agreement. And then eventually, Dybala just doesn't want to sit there and wait for you for the entire window. He's going to start looking elsewhere, which he did, and good for him, right? I mean, he made a decision he felt was best for I'm surprised he took the money that he did, but he's tired of waiting on Inter, so good for him for moving on. And so that's the problem when you have an instability in ownership like this. Even a really, really good sporting director like Mike Marotta can only do so much when you're financially so hamstrung.
No, absolutely. I guess to see what happens with the club, but like, don't get me wrong, Lukaku's a good signing, and how they did it. I think that Mkhitaryan's a decent signing. I know that some people say he's old, this and that, but I think that he still provides quality, especially off the bench in that midfield. Their back line, they didn't really do much to their back line to try to improve it, but their back line's still one of the best, just keeping the way it is. And we'll see what happens. But I think your wing backs is a concern, though. I think that's the biggest concern now with Inter is their wing backs. Like, you got Dumfries, and I don't know who else you have. You got Dumfries.
Gosens, who's got a little injury trouble right now. Darmian.
You lost Perisic. Think about it, you lost Hakimi 2 years ago, and now you lost Perisic. You lost your two best wing backs in the span of 2 years. That is, and they never really upgraded that position in order to replace them. Like who's gonna deliver those crosses like Perisic does, like Hakimi did? Like, I thought Hakimi was really good in the final third as well. Like, he adapted as the season progressed, but like, yeah, man, I wonder how they're really gonna be counting on Darmian this year. That's isn't that scary? You have to count on Darmian.
Yes and no. He's been pretty good. At some point, because he's getting up there in years, so at some point he's probably going to run out of gas. But he's actually been pretty good. Like, he's a jack of all trades. Like, he's not a superb attacking player, nor is he a superb defender, but he's just good at everything. Darmy, like, he's actually been pretty good. But still, like, there's only so much you can expect because he's got a ceiling. Like, it's like a younger version of Danilo D'Ambrosio, who's been with the club for like 100 years, right? I mean, he was a lot more consistent like 2-3 years ago. He's not really the same player, but he's a jack of all trades, right? It's the same thing with Darmian. Like, you can count on these guys to score some clutch goals, and in the case of D'Ambrosio, he has like a couple of miraculous defensive plays every year, like the block when he blocked with his freaking groin. He blocked that shot from Milan a couple of years ago that preserved a 3-2 win. That was unbelievable. But we'll wrap it up in a moment. I want to offer everybody a huge thank you for stopping by. And I think Mass is right. I think Inter need to call Barca to get some tips for how to win the transfer market, even though you're broke. Like, how does Barca always do that? Jerry, anything you want to promote on the way out? Anything you've been writing?
J Mancini 8. I wrote an article basically recapping TFC's final loss. Their loss in the Canadian Championship versus Vancouver back on Tuesday night, and wrote that yesterday. And that's about it. Like, I haven't been writing a lot for Serie A right now. I just been focused just on TSC, and for good reasons, like we said before. But I'll still be focused on Serie A, but the writing on Serie A will be less. And I find that just doing one article a week just makes it easier for me, so I don't have to stress out and overwhelm myself. It's so much easier. I know people probably prefer I'm writing Serie A content, but when it gets me credentials, I'll take that any day. I can care less about Serie A. But I'm just happy that Lazio's having a strong transfer market, so it keeps the season optimistic. And since Biz is in the house, I'll leave this here. Your boy Kim Min-jae almost took out Victor Osimhen for good today because he was apparently a rough tackle in training session that had Osimhen limp off, but he came back and scored 2 goals apparently. But
okay, that's a good way to respond.
That's a good way, Kimmy.
Yeah,
straight start. Just take out your best player. That's it. Just give him a nice shot. They're cool. Yeah, of all players, cool, that's a good point. That's actually business right. They're cool now. I can just imagine how mad Victor Osimhen got, but that guy's got a temper so bad. I think, just Victor Osimhen needs to learn how to be more calm and more mature. But that's going to come with time. That will come in time. But
he plays with emotion. He lives with emotion. For certain guys, it's just what makes them tick. Yeah, and I
no one gives a shit about Napoli, bro. Fuck yourself. No, I'm joking. But I think Napoli's got a good team. I think they're a top 4 contender.
By the way, the main thing that I want to plug is, because I know Jerry has notified me that my internet has sucked as usual. I'm getting it upgraded, Jerry, on Saturday. The AT&T man is coming. They're upgrading me to fiber internet, and so if I'm having these same issues come next week, I'm going to be making a very angry phone call to AT&T about that. But I am getting they finally offer fiber in my area, which they haven't offered until like a week ago. So I'm getting better internet connection come Saturday. So by the next time we're on, hopefully I'm going to have just a smoother Wi-Fi situation. And yeah, I've been I know that there may be not a whole there may not be a whole lot of interest from this audience, but I've been doing a lot more college football, American football coverage. I'm working with Sports Illustrated and the Locked On Podcast Network. So if you guys want to check those things out, if you go to my Twitter bio, you'll see where to find anything. And again, I know that most of the people who watch this content are into to Calcio, so there may not be any crossover, but just in case, my balls are going to have fiber. We need to bring back Manscaped is what we need to do. Maybe they'll send us a new kit.
That's funny you say that, because I was looking at my Manscaped tweet. I tweeted out.
Oh, yeah.
I might actually just do that for shits and giggles and promote Manscaped for the hell of it. I wrote a tweet like 2 years ago. It was amazing about promoting Manscaped.
We could probably get them back. It's like, just don't expect like to actually make a lot of money through it, but maybe they'll send us another kit because they've upgraded. Because like back when we had Manscaped, it was the Lawnmower 3.0. I think it's the Lawnmower 4.0 or even 5.0 now. So they've upgraded their equipment.
We should look into that. I'm down to retweet. I'm down to get that Manscaped tweet back out again.
We might be able to. I know who to email, so we might be able to. And yeah, Mass, I'm excited. You know I am, and I know you are as well. All right, guys, thank you so much, everyone who stopped in. Mass, Raph, our guy George, Sanjar, thank you so much for stopping in. Anthony, thank you so much for coming in. Berat, thank you so much, and I agree, Forza Inter. Chris, thank you so much. Oh, and yeah, I did see that today. That'd be a nice win as well. All right, we will talk to you guys again next week. Another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. See ya.